So when you're remote viewing this stuff, can you go back in time and see what happened somewhere at a certain time? Or can you just go like, I'm going to go to East Africa right now and see what's going on in the Namibian desert, like at this moment? How, and when you're doing it, how does the information come to you?
Okay. Two really good questions. And I'm going to start with the latter part of your question, which was, how does it come to you? Yeah. And understand that as a scientist and a physicist, it is, and as a special operations soldier, this is all theoretical. I mean, there's no way to actually, nobody's ever yet truly proven how human beings do this. But here's the theoretical interpretation of this.
Okay.
So it deals with a quantum, and what we're borrowing from is quantum mechanical interpretations, quantum mechanical physics, the interpretations of that. And we're borrowing those interpretations. And you do know what I mean by interpretations. Yeah. Like, okay, so science is not absolute, despite the fact that Jack or others might try to make it out to be. And the greatest physicists and mathematicians among us are very clear on that, and they're very honest. You know, the Nobel Prize winners and the Temple Award winners and other things in physics, they are very keen to make sure that people understand that everything we think we know about the world around us and the physics that explains it and the mathematical proofs that we use to back up those physics interpretations could all be bullshit tomorrow afternoon, right? Because they're all based on just what we know now. And when we input or change variables in the equations, everything changes. Right. The whole outcome changes. The whole interpretation and understanding of it changes. So in the world of quantum mechanical physicists and theoretical physicists in general, they understand this and accept that and preach it. Maybe a few don't, but experimental physicists have a tendency to think that the world is in absolutes. In fact, I recently had a dialogue with an experimental physicist who said to me very clearly that his role in the world is to prove theoretical physicists wrong, which in truth, that is his role. You know, there may be 10 theoretical physicists that come up with various concepts, and his job is to secure grants to prove or disprove those. He's not necessarily attacking those individuals, right. But his job is
that's science.
Yeah, science. But whenever you start to hear people speaking in terms of absolutism, right? It's this. Absolutely this. That's the wrong approach in science.
And why? Because I know it.
Yeah, because I know it. So just believe me. You shut up because you don't know anything.
It's the Copernican principle.
That was the best laugh I had in a very long time.
Yeah, me too, man.
Like I said, I swear I had that guy in college. I mean, I've had that guy, in front. Well,
there's a recording of him actually at SRI with Hal Puthoff and some people in the CIA where they're talking about Uri Geller and he's in there talking to them. I don't know where it goes beyond that, but that's the one thing that was solid.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well,
it's been a while.
Good for him. Yeah. I mean, it's so when you're talking about these quantum mechanical principles and then you're borrowing those and applying them into interpretations of quantum mind. In some scientists' minds, you're creating a bridge and treading on ground that has no basis in fact whatsoever. And that's okay. I'm not saying this to you to try to win people like that over. I really couldn't care less. I mean, in this protocol of remote viewing, when I stepped into it to learn it, I didn't believe it, and I had no reference for it. I was there because I admitted that I had some weird thing happen to me when I got shot in a helmet in Jordan, right, as a Ranger Company commander. That's how I ended up being there. I had no, I didn't claim that I was clairvoyant or that anything like that. I had never ever said that in my life ever. I didn't even use the word psychic, unless I was talking about something in a movie, right? I had no idea what any of this was. But now I step into this place where everybody there has got some preconceived notion that they are this or they are that, but not me. I'm just a special operations, infantry officer, but now here I am. The only one that ever actually, darkened the doorway there, and the only one that was ever trained in those protocols. And so I fought against it, and I was, as a scientist, very, very questioning and analytical about what I was learning and how I was learning it, and whether or not I believed their analysis of my work, etc. And it just went on that way for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And then about 2.5 months into it, you get to the point where the targets and the data collection are so complex and so thorough that you can't just dismiss it away anymore. It gets to the point where you start going like, shit, this couldn't have happened, because you're only given 2 sets of 4 numbers. You're not given a wink, wink, this is what it is, or, it might be this, or think Colosseum, on the Mediterranean kind of thing. It's not a hint. They give you nothing. They give you 2 sets of 4 numbers. I'll explain that in a minute. But because that leads into how this comes to you as a remote viewer. So the point, just to backstop or to back up on this, is number one, it's an ability that we all have. We're born with it. It's nothing unique. The protocols that were developed for the CIA DIA program were developed to standardize the approach that everybody took to the intelligence collection, right? They wanted to make sure that it was uniform, that the data came in the categories that they were looking for the data to come in. They wanted to make sure that the summaries were all the same for everybody, that sketches were probed and labeled, et cetera, so that it was usable intel. And then it was compiled by the program manager. It was put together, a grand summary was developed, and then it was sent up to the DIA, because at that point it was called all source intel. All source intel means they get this request from a customer. Let's just say maybe it's the Navy, maybe it's the CIA. And what they do is they're not selective about, well, we think this intel method would be best for this. All source intel means it just goes out to everybody. Here's the collection task. This is the mission. Everybody decide how you need to do this, but all your input is due by this date, or it'll be ongoing. So that's how it happened. And viewers were as effective as any of the rest of them. If they hadn't been, they would have cut it off and closed it down a long time ago, not kept it going for 20 years before I wrote a book. And then it's still ongoing today, despite the fact that I know many of my former colleagues are trying to say, oh, no, it's not. But yeah, it is. They wouldn't have killed it. It was valuable back then. It's valuable now, and they're still doing it.